We're sick with it. Hello to all my beautiful Bi-Conics wrestling nerds out there, and welcome to another edition of the Bi-Conic Review of Honor, or BROH for short. I am one of your hosts, Mikey. Joined with me this week is our other lovely co-host, Andrew, for a very special Thanksgiving-ified-ish episode of Ring of Honor. Of course, thankfully, I'm going to be honest, no turkey shenanigans happened during this taping, but you know, it would have been great. Yep. It was missing a turkey costume. Unfortunately, our other two co-hosts, JVL and Jesse, cannot join us this week. They decided to do the family thing, whatever that is. How dare they? No, I'm just kidding. I know that they're having a fun time with their families, and I'm looking forward to them being back next week. But me and Andrew are holding down the fort, and we have a really fun card to go through tonight. I thought overall this was a fun episode of Ring of Honor, and I have some bold statements that I'm going to be making throughout the course of our review, because I think we're starting to slowly get potentially matches for Final Battle in 3 weeks.
It's crazy how soon that is. That's so.
I had to look at my calendar right now. I was like, yeah, it's about a month away. No, it's 3 weeks. More like 2.5 if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
When we do, it's funny. We're going to do the Go Home Show review the day of Final Battle. So that should be a fun one. But without further ado, let's just jump straight into this week's episode. We kick off Ring of Honor this week first with a quick video package of Billie Starkz and Athena having an open challenge of sorts to whoever wants to step up to her and Billie Starkz. And as they walk out of frame, Marina Shafir walks in. She picks up her cell phone, calls somebody's number and is like, dude.
That was fun, moment between those two. I wish I wouldn't have known already, but I like the way they set it up simply, and I think that was a good moment for Marina.
I love that Ring of Honor is showcasing Marina more, honestly, because I think she's improved in the ring. And as I stated last week, we talked about how much more comfortable she is in front of the camera, and as far as the wrestling entertainment portion of professional wrestling. And my goodness, we're going to talk about her in the main event, because I think that main event was a lot better than I was expecting.
Oh, yeah.
But after this little segment, we officially kick off Ring of Honor with our first match. This is for the Ring of Honor Pure Championship, where we see challenger Trent Beretta taking on the champion Katsuyori Shibata. And the judges making up the judges table for the Pure Championship is Jerry Lynn, Jimmy Jacobs, and Madison Rain. Though so far in the Pure matches that we've seen since this rebrand of Ring of Honor, they really haven't can't come into play for a lot of this. But it was a good time. I honestly thought this was a really fun opener. Again, I might be biased because I'm a big fan of Katsuyori Shibata, but Trent Beretta actually did pretty well too here. I was like, wow. Because again, if you're gonna bring people over from AEW's roster to be in Ring of Honor, I think Trent is one of those stars where I feel like he fits Ring of Honor, especially since he actually has history in Ring of Honor too. Man, Katsuyori Shibata, it doesn't matter who he's fighting. He's going to kick people's heads off regardless. I
really enjoyed getting to see Shibata back in action, back in the Ring of Honor ring, and putting his title on the line. I thought, it was fun to finally see some of that action back there, even though I didn't feel like the outcome was necessarily going to be a surprise when it's the opener for their weekly show. But yeah, it was awesome to see him back in there, and I would love to see more of him.
Absolutely. I would love to see Trent, stick around a little bit for Ring of Honor. This is where bold statement number 1 comes in. We've been talking about weeks. I honestly think we're going to get Shibata versus Josh Woods, hopefully, at Final Battle. I think this is the culmination of what we've been building up to. I'm surprised no Josh Woods this week, but that's neither here nor there, so we shall see what happens with that. Again, the kick to the chest that allowed Shibata to win, I'm like, somebody check Trent. I think his ribcage and his clavicle is probably not in the correct spot. It hurt me, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, and it was so fast too. It surprised me, the finish. Like, I thought they were going to build more to that, especially with all the submission setups and forcing those rope breaks, which I kind of like that we've seen that now. Like, that happened in a Josh Woods match, and it happened in a Shibata match, where you see the people who are more experienced in the pure rules, they kind of bait their competitors who aren't as used to it into, like, they force them into it, they get them close to the ropes excuse me, and get them to use up their tags, or sorry, their rope breaks, and we get to see that kind of play into the match psychology. So I like that we've seen that play in there a little bit. But yeah, I was surprised at how quickly this match came to an end. I thought it would go a little bit longer, but they were hinting up Woods throughout the whole match, and I feel like that makes sense of where they're going to go, because they haven't really built up anybody else to really challenge Shibata for the title.
Right, and honestly, I think Shibata versus Woods round 2, I think, is going to be as fantastic as their initial interaction all those months ago, and I'm excited for that. Speaking of things that I'm excited for, we get into our first of many four-corner survival match. This up, though, is our four-corner survival match with the women. So this match saw Diamante versus Trish Adora versus Kiera Hogan versus Willow Nightingale. I think these 4 women, if I'm being completely honest, are probably the strongest contenders to be up there to face Athena at some point for the Ring of Honor Women's Champion. The only real complaint that I have about this match is how short it was. I think it was like, I maybe clocked it in for 6 minutes at best. But what I'm hoping to see out of this is, no surprise, Willow Nightingale gets the victory, because right now she's the Ring of Honor darling. And I love that Caprice called it out. She's basically the fan favorite, which I have to agree with, of Ring of Honor's women's roster. But what I love to see too is, even though poor Trish Adora got pinned in this match, we're setting up what looks to be problems between Diamante and Kiera Hogan might be fighting each other for a little bit, especially, when Diamante threw Kiera out. I thought this match, as short as it was, I loved all 4 women got a chance to do their thing. And then, of course, Willow Nightingale cleaning house and the brainbuster. Oh, God.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the couple of moments. We got a couple of them between Kiera Hogan and Diamante, and, it was fun to see that, because on top of just them working well, that, it was probably fun for them too. But yeah, Willow was watching this, just made me realize how much between the way she gets the, fans behind her and her just abilities in the ring, I'm just like, yeah, Willow has to be the top contender. I mean, she's just so good out there in both of those categories. And really at the end, when she picked it up and she started turning it on before the finish, was just like, yeah, she's a beast. And yeah, I can't wait to see her wrestle again for that title. Her against Athena is awesome, but whoever might have that title, if it's not Athena, Willow needs to be up there for sure.
I think Willow should be the next person in line to hold that Ring of Honor Women's Championship. So I also appreciate that Caprice and Ian, clarify this is Willow's 8th straight win on Ring of Honor. So, she's been booked strong since losing against Athena at Death Before Dishonor back in July. So we're building her back up. I think she will eventually face Athena for the title, but I think there's another woman who potentially might be in front of her right now for final battle, which we'll get to in a little bit. Well, speaking of our Ring of Honor Women's Champion, we get a quick recap of what happened at the Pro Wrestling Revolver show. That happened, again, Rampage, Collision, and Ring of Honor tapings happened the same night, but that Pro Wrestling Revolver show also happened, I think, Friday as well. So everybody was busy, but we got a recap where Ronda Rousey and Marina Shafir took on Athena and Billie Starkz. And that match ended in a DQ when Athena hit Ronda with the title. So that sets up our main event, spoiler alert, of why we're getting this rematch on Ring of Honor, which I really appreciate. And then from there, we just jump into our first non-title singles match of the evening, where Tony Nese doesn't even make a full entrance. Smart Mark Sterling cuts the music, and I wrote this verbatim. Tony Nese has told me that you all need to stay fat for one more night. I'm just like, oh my gosh. I was like, how dare Tony Nese not have group exercise?
Yeah, he's mad now. He's cutting people off.
You
don't appreciate the work.
I was so upset. I'm like, how dare you cancel group exercise after we had it week after week? And Smart Mark just cuts a miniature promo saying that this is all the fault of Ethan Page because we're not doing this, and this is Ethan Page's fault. He's ruining everything. And lo and behold, Ethan Page, like just his music hits, he comes on out, and we have our match. I actually thought this was a pretty fun match. I love the fact that Smart Mark halfway through the match got booted out of the ring because, you know, he was trying to help Tony Nese cheat, but he got caught with it. He got caught in 4K, as the kids say. I will say, though, I was kind of surprised because after Smart Mark got ejected, it wasn't that long before Ethan Page got Tony Nese pinned for the win. I was like, oh, not how I was expecting the match to end, but all right.
Yeah, this match was, like, I wrote down brutal and highly intense. Like, and obviously they were building to what we get to see later, but Ethan Page was just like tearing through that ring with Tony Nese, and you know, I like getting to see him turning it up to, you know, a new level. So it made this match really exciting. You know, even though they're kind of keeping this story going, but I think one of my top features for this match was being reminded of how good Aubrey Edwards is at being the third person in the ring. And it was just the fun moments of, you know, Smart Mark getting tossed out and that kind of stuff. There was just really good interactions. But yeah, I'm hoping that we get this nice build to Ethan Page being this, you know, kind of force. And I kind of feel like if we continue this, that Page versus Nese might be one of the matches for the television tournament. That's just my kind of, I think where they might go with this. Just, yeah.
Well, I hope, speaking of which, I totally had forgotten that was the announcement we got last week. Thank you for reminding me, because we didn't get nothing about that tonight, but oh my goodness, man, they're gonna cram this in because we have 3 weeks until final battle, so we got to figure out who's doing what. I'm like, you guys, we got to get it together. Like, we got 3 weeks, Ring of Honor, and you got to start building this card for final battle. I'm pretty sure the final card's gonna be fun, but again, I have now I have the same complaints for this build for final battle as I did for Death Before Dishonor. The pay-per-view ended up being amazing, but the build for it was not where I wanted it to be. But speaking of things not being where I want them to be, we got a quick recap of, so it was like night and day. And, you know, being there live for Full Gear to see both of the Ring of Honor pre-show matches on 0 Hour was night and day. They give us a recap of the Ring of Honor World Championship match with Eddie Kingston defending the title against Jay Lethal, and that was a lot of fun. Hearing the machine gun chops from Eddie Kingston live was a dream come true. I got to see the guitar shot live, which was very brutal as well. And then it was brought down with the World Tag Team Championship match. The match itself was a lot of fun. I actually thought Samoa Joe looked like he had a really fun time, you know, choking out the guns, which is what you want to do with the guns. But then go check out the Full Gear review, because then it led to a whole plethora night of just overbooked mess and Jay White looking like a dweeb at the end of it. It made me sad. But then it picked right back up, because I don't know about you, Andrew, but at this point, I still don't know what was my match of the night, but this is one of the 2 contenders for me. We had our second corner tag team match here, and my god, this was a work of art. So this was the Workhorsemen versus the Iron Savages versus the Infantry versus the West Coast Wrecking Crew of New Japan, and of course the local SoCal boys as well. This match was baller. I really enjoyed this. First of all, I gotta give it to West Coast Wrecking Crew, because oh my gosh, both of them were great. But I believe it was, I think Ross's last name, I think the strong man of the West, when he had my move of the night where he German suplexed both Boulder and JD Drake at the same time. I was like, that's 700 pounds. Do you know how much core strength that takes? But listen, all 4 teams were great. JD Drake, the Workhorsemen were awesome. The Infantry, actually, they were comedic, but they also had their fun spots of tag team action. West Coast Wrecking Crew, I think, are my MVPs for this match, because they did a lot. And then, of course, I'm biased because my boys, the Iron Savages, they were awesome. This was chaotic, but in the best way possible.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You know, it's funny in a match where so quickly tags become very minimal, but so much action takes place. But when they do it right, you get to see so much high quality tag team action, you know, and so the way that they were able to pace this out between everyone was really great. Like you said, I have Carly Bravo he's always entertaining when he's in there. And the fact that he can bring that much energy to a match where, there's 7 other people in the match, he just brings that unique energy. And the West Coast Wrecking Crew, I was not surprised that they were going to lose this match, because I was like, okay, you got 3 Ring of Honor tag teams here. They're 3 of the most notable ones. But the way that they went into that loss, I stopped thinking about that fact throughout the match. So I was just in it to watch and be entertained. And when he caught JD Drake coming off that top rope, I thought that was insane. And yeah, then hit that suplex. I was like, these guys are crazy. It was such a fun match. I agree with you. This was definitely, I think by the end of the night, this ended up being my second favorite match of the whole night. But yeah, this was definitely a top tier match for me. Yeah, I love it. I say it every week. I would love for us to get some just regular tag team matches, because I'd like to see how that could work, and potentially actually build up some tag teams to carry the tag team gold instead of a single person, but that's for another time. But the fact that these tag teams can keep me invested in that division when they're having to wrestle in these 4-way tag matches just tells you how good all of them are as tag teams.
Absolutely. I also agree with you. I'm hoping that, again, we have 3 weeks. Who knows if the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships will be defended at Final Battle. It would be a crime if they're not, but, that's neither here nor there. But again, we keep showcasing the top tag teams, in my opinion, that we have going on in Ring of Honor. So hopefully we could figure something out, because I would love to see all these teams vie for the title. I also agree with you. I would just like interspersed in between all this multi-tag matches that we get just one-on-one tag team regular action, which I think would be great too. Okay, so I know we've been talking about how much we wanted both Tony Nese and Ethan Page to kind of figure out what direction they want to go with their promos. And I gotta be honest, I think both of them did give me some direction, and I'm actually really glad for the promos we got, because first, we get Tony Nese and Smart Mark Sterling with, Lexi backstage. No, not Lexi. Yes, Lexi.
Mm-hmm.
No, Lexi? Yeah, okay. There's way too many great backstage personalities, and they're all female too, so I was just like, let's go. But back with Lexi, Tony Nese, and Smart Mark Sterling is literally, I wrote in a summary, they just go off. They go off, and they talk about how Ethan Page is a cheater. They are deflecting, the shenanigans they've pulled over the last couple of weeks, and they're so outraged with how Ethan Page acted in the match. And, he pre-planned Smart Mark getting thrown out. And I was ready to fight them when they started blaming Aubrey. I'm like, don't you talk about my favorite ref. And I was like, thank you. This is what I wanted, and this is what we've been asking for the last couple weeks. Now we're turning the heat up in this feud between Tony and Ethan Page.
Yeah, it's obviously they seem now, from what I've saw from tonight, they seem to have the end point kind of planned out as to where we're going to get to with this feud. So I enjoyed that we got some more focus and more direction and more intensity. I mean, the match itself was super intense. So I'm happy that they matched it coming out of it, because they needed to keep that energy going. So that, I think that's a good thing for both these competitors.
I agree. And I'm going to wait until we get to our other, person involved in this feud, because then I'm going to make my bold statement. But next up, speaking of bold statements, next up we had a Pure Rules match where we saw our judges, once again, Jerry Lynn, Madison Rain, and this time Pat Buck. I was like, sir, what happened to all the dye? Like, you're gone back to gray. Like, sir, you are on camera. What? Anyways, so we saw Tyga style Lee Moriarty taking on Blackpool Combat Club member Wheeler Yuta. I don't want to say this match was bad for me. None of the matches were inherently bad for me, but I was just like, okay, let me go grab a snack real quick, because I've seen this iteration of this match multiple times in this past year on multiple occasions. So it's like, yeah, okay. And then again, whoever's running the social media for AEW, I need you to wait until the full episode airs, because not even before the episode came out yesterday, social media posted on Rampage. This is going to be a Ring of Honor Pure Championship match between Katsuyori Shibata and Wheeler Yuta. I was just like, well, now I know who's going to win this match. Thanks a lot, Rampage. That match should actually be really good too. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, I actually missed that announcement for Rampage, so I'm happy that I didn't see that, because I thought I kind of really liked this match. But I'm also a big fan of what Pure style generally tends to, like, the styles that they made that division for. And so I liked what the two of them were doing. I think this is an area where Wheeler Yuta can excel more than in other styles of wrestling. It seems to kind of fit him a bit more. So when he gets to go out there and wrestle in this style, I think this is an area where if they want to kind of push Wheeler Yuta, it's in this kind of style. So, you know, whether he's going to go into doing some more Ring of Honor stuff or whatever, I think it's just a way to get him some more attention, because he's so overshadowed by the other members of the Blackpool Combat Club that, you know, when he gets to go and do this stuff and kind of shine a bit more. And Lee Moriarty obviously is great at this style too. So I enjoyed getting to see them kind of counter each other a lot in this. I feel like it's been one of the more interesting matches I've seen from both of them in a while. And, you know, I feel, you know, Lee Moriarty kind of feels like in Ring of Honor, he's been so, you know, it was nice to see that kind of happen. And it sounds like they're doing quite a few Pure things in, you know, in the really recent time. So again, though, with this title, I'd like to see more of it, even if it's just being like, you know, some promos and build-ups to contenders for that championship. I'd like to see more of that on Ring of Honor.
Right. And I think for me personally, I would love to see a build-up of, like, just like we just talked about how we have a viable women's division too. I want to see that viable division for the Pure Championship, and for the Ring of Honor World Championship is kind of being preoccupied in a big 12-person tournament right now. Okay, like, it's just me and you, so let's pause on this Ring of Honor review and let's go on a side tangent real quick, because this is technically Ring of Honor related, because our champion Eddie Kingston's involved in this tournament. So let's talk about this real quick. So for those of you who want to kind of fast forward and get back to the review, you can check the timestamps below to go on to the next Ring of Honor segment after this. But me and Andrew are going to spend a couple minutes talking about this. So for those of you that are sticking around to watch this whole tangent, strap in, because we have a lot of feelings about this that we're going to take from the group text that we have, and we're going to put it on air. So if you are not aware, AEW is currently running the Continental Classic, which is AEW's version of the G1 tournament. So the G1 tournament is from New Japan, and essentially it is a multi-week round-robin singles competition where all the participants are broken up into blocks, and they have matches with all the said people in said blocks. And then the way it works is that the winners of said blocks will go on to face the winner of another one. So there's 4 blocks. You have one winner from each of the 4, then 202, and then the winners of those matches will go on to face each other in the finals. And the winner of the G1 gets a future title shot at the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. So, for example, this year, Tetsuya Naito beat Will Ospreay in the finals, and at Wrestle Kingdom, it's going to be Tetsuya Naito facing off against Sonata for the title, which is going to be a great match in my opinion. But AEW is doing something similar, except it is only 12 participants, 2 leagues. The next couple of weeks over Dynamite and Collision, we're going to have 2 blocks, Gold League, Blue League of 6 participants each in it, 3 points if you win, 1 point if the match ends in a draw. And the finals will be taking place at World's End. And the championship is going to be for the Triple Crown Championship is what they're calling it, which is basically where we have a new title in the Continental Classic Championship, but it's being merged with the New Japan Strong, like, Open Weight Championship, which normally I was like, okay, that's fine. But then this is where I have the issue. Those 2 titles are also being merged with the Ring of Honor World Championship title. And so Eddie Kingston is technically putting that title on the line in every single match, because if he doesn't make it to the final and wins, he will be dethroned as our champion for Ring of Honor. So yeah, I love the tournament, and I would be fine if it was just merging the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship and this new Continental Classic Championship. But now they're merging it with the Ring of Honor World Championship. And I am baffled as to why we are doing this, because we complained with our last champion before Eddie. Claudio was never, hardly ever on Ring of Honor television. And the only time he defended that thing was like twice. One of them being on a random episode of Ring of Honor. And then the next time we didn't see him was months later when he defended it against Pac at Death Before Dishonor. And then Eddie beat him for it. I was like, thank you, Eddie. But now AEW decided, let's merge the Ring of Honor world title with some other stuff. And I'm like, if Eddie doesn't win, I'm going to riot. I'm going to riot because I want somebody who's going to be on Ring of Honor defending that title. And if it's not Eddie, the rest of the boys are like the rest of the guys in the tournament are all AEW folks. The only other person I would see going to Ring of Honor is Danielson, but Danielson has said in interviews he doesn't want to be in the spotlight. Eddie has to win, and it makes me mad because I actually really like the 12 participants they picked for this tournament, but one out of the 12 is a Ring of Honor person. Swerve is willing to go to Swerve and Ring of Honor actually would be killer, but I don't like it. We got the 6-man tag titles back, but they haven't been on television. Like Brian Cage is out here on AEW, like filling in for people. We haven't seen the Gates of Agony in weeks. Those titles have been missing. MJF is still holding the World Tag Team titles hostage over on AEW. What are we doing?
The television title was just, discarded so someone could challenge for the AEW World title, a title that they actually want. Like, it's so frustrating. Like, and if they're going to merge it, is the Ring of Honor World title not going to exist anymore? Like, are they going to make it one championship, or is that person now going to walk around with 3 titles and be in the same boat that Eddie Kingston was in when he, was trying to bounce back and forth between his New Japan title and his Ring of Honor title? Like, I said this in the text is, everyone was complaining and wanting Ring of Honor titles to be in Ring of Honor and not be on other shows. That didn't mean get rid of the Ring of Honor titles. That means we want them to come back and actually be represented by the people in. Like you said, I don't know that any of those other competitors are going to go to Ring of Honor because most of them feel like they're people they're trying to use for bigger things in AEW than what they picture having them go down and be the world champion in Ring of Honor. Especially because even if they're going to hold the Ring of Honor title, they're probably going to defend it most of the time or carry it most of the time in AEW anyway. So now we have the pure title, like, although now it's going to be on AEW, and then we've got the women's title, which really at this point is going to be the Ring of Honor Championship because it's the only title that's out there. Being a part of matches, defending that title on Ring of Honor consistently. It's the only title that's showing up in any of those situations. And we're having this tournament for the television title, so hopefully they're going to put a Ring of Honor person on there and actually have them wrestle the TV title on their television show. But I don't know, how often do we see the TNT title defended on television? That's basically a television championship right there. So, it's just there's so many titles running around between these companies that it's like they just don't know what to do with them, and it's a bummer because there's so many people in Ring of Honor that would be so great at carrying those titles, and so many other people that they could compete with that would be good for all those people in Ring of Honor. But it's like, it feels like people that are in charge are looking down on Ring of Honor titles as lesser titles, but then the people on Ring of Honor aren't good enough to carry even those titles. And it sucks because that's not true in any of those cases. There's so many good competitors in Ring of Honor, and having the prestige and the history that goes with the Ring of Honor titles is such a big thing, especially for those people that actually want to be there and be a part of Ring of Honor. I was super bummed when they made this announcement. Like, it was just the complete opposite of everything that we wanted with Eddie holding that title. And now I don't know, are they going to unify the titles and then just be like, okay, here's a new Ring of Honor world title? Yeah, I don't feel like there's any outcome from the way that they've set this up that it's gonna be pleasing.
Well, on top of that too, since the Ring of Honor World Championship is being used right now for this tournament, that takes the main men's title out of Final Battle, I'm assuming. So we're not even going to get that defended at Final Battle like we thought. And I don't know. We have a couple of weeks until World's End to see what happens with it, but I swear if Eddie Kingston doesn't make it to the finals, at least, I might actually riot. Like, I don't know, man, but we'll see what happens. But now we're back to our Ring of Honor stuff. So if you had fast forward your way through it, welcome back. You missed a good chunk of minutes. And for those of you that sat through our little tangent, thank you so much. We're very passionate about our wrestling. We care about our Ring of Honor titles. And we all here at Bro want these titles to be respected because we think that people who are involved in Ring of Honor are very, very talented. Speaking of very talented people, we had our third four-corner survival match. And this one was actually a lot of fun too. Lee Johnson versus Willie Mack versus Jack Cartwheel versus Fred Rosaire. Listen, I'm a sucker for stunts, and Jack was probably my MVP, and I'm biased because I love people who could flip around and do things.
This match was a lot of fun. It was basically a really fast spot match, but it was done in a way that just kept it entertaining. But also, you know, there's a couple people that I am not as familiar with. Like, obviously, I've seen a lot more of Lee Johnson and Willie Mack than Jack Cartwheel. I've seen most of his stuff on, like, social media. And then Fred was the first time that I had really seen any of his matches. So it was nice to see him back in here. And, yeah, it was fun. You got to see two powerhouses kind of go against each other. But then, you know, you got to see the high flyers and Willie Mack throwing out some, you know, high-speed maneuvers like he usually does. But, yeah, Jack Cartwheel was so clean in some of the movement that he did. That backflip avoid of the clothesline was insane. And it was a nice little bit of, like, you know, kind of aggression that he showed at the end to kind of get the win. So overall, yeah, I thought this was a really fun match. And these four did a really good job of playing to that four-corner survival match.
I agree with you. I think Lee Johnson being the person to pick up the win here is definitely a good choice, because we want to start building up. Since Lee has been pretty much in the majority of Ring of Honor since its re-debut, you know, this year, it makes sense. I want to see Lee become a staple in Ring of Honor, so giving him the win here is awesome. Speaking of other things that were awesome, we got the second half of the Tony Nese, Ethan Page, like, saga of promos. So this was Ethan Page's turn, and I would just like to thank you, Ethan Page and Ring of Honor, for giving me what I wanted, because the last couple weeks we've all been talking, specifically me, I want to see more intensity and direction for Ethan Page and directing his frustration and anger. And I am this close to seeing All Ego come back, because this intensity is what I've been missing from Ethan, and he was not having it. He called out Tony. He called out Mark. He was trying to be nice about the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you don't tell me when it's over. I say when it's over. I'm like, oh boy. And Lexi's just standing there. She's just like...
When he took the microphone away, she just, like, kind of slunk back. You go.
Yes. I loved it so much, but this is what I wanted. This is what I wanted to see from Ethan. And this is my bold claim. I think that we're definitely getting a match between these two at Death Before Dishonor. And I'm hoping it's some sort of no DQ match, because, you know, the bane of Ethan's existence the last couple of weeks is that Tony and Smart Mark have found different ways to cheat in order for Tony to win. So it only makes sense to have a no DQ, stipulation where anything goes, which will then allow Ethan to do whatever he needs to win as well.
I wrote down for this promo, this was all anger Ethan Page. He was just going off, and the buildup was perfect too. It just shows it shows the dynamic between the two different sides. And I think Tony Nese is great, but I hope what we get to see is that culmination of what Ethan Page has done since he popped up in Ring of Honor not that long ago, and we get to see him do a big push, because he's one of the top performers out there that I think needs to be kind of the face of this. Like, him and Dalton Castle are the two, like, male performers that I think need to be the, like, them with Athena you get the right tag team, and if we could get the Mogul Embassy actually to wrestle in Ring of Honor, I mean, you got a great lineup of champions right there. So, and Shibata or Woods, just dominant forces in those divisions. So I'm pumped to see what's next for Ethan Page.
I am too. And like you said, there's so many good people to choose from for, to put championships on. And realistically, my Mount Rushmore to end the year, I would love to see. Honestly, I love Eddie. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure. Hopefully he's still champion by the end of the year. But Eddie as your world champion, Athena as your women's champion. Biasly, I would love. You need a fun champion. And I think Iron Savages as champions would be great. Mogul Embassy, I want them back because I think they're a great six-man, champions. It's gonna be great. All right, so we then get to the main event tonight, and the internet ruined the surprise for me. And then again, Ring of Honor told us at the beginning, what our main event was and who was involved. So it kind of took the surprise wind out of my sails, but that was okay. So our main event was a women's tag team match, which saw Athena and Billie Starkz taking on the team of The Problem, Marina Shafir, and Miss Rowdy Ronda Rousey as her partner. And I just want to state this right now. I know people are hit and miss when it comes to Ronda in terms of the wrestling world. Some people like her, some people don't. I am one of the few of the camp where I think her being in Ring of Honor actually kind of makes sense to me, given her actual, martial artist, MMA fighter background, which I think is more suited to Ring of Honor than more other places. And I like that she got to team with her bestie, Marina Shafir. So I was like, okay, I'm surprised. Let's see how, Billie and Athena work with. This match was given time. All four women went out trying to kill each other. Athena was selling like crazy, where I actually thought she may or may not have got... I need Athena to slow down when she throws herself on the floor or off the apron, because I, for a few instances, thought she actually hurt herself on the way down. Marina actually was MVP for me in a sense because she got to showcase a lot in this match. The money shot for me, though, was when Athena held up Ronda to try to slam her on the ground, and then Ronda, mid-air, put her in an armbar while Athena was holding her up, which awesome. And then I loved the ending where Billie Starkz, tries to go for, a swanton of some sort, and then gets caught up in the submission move. This match ruled. There's only so few words. This match ruled. And now that I think back on this, while I loved the tag team four-corner match, I think this women's match was probably my match of the night. Replaying everything in my head of what went on during that match. This was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. And I'm so happy that these four women blew my expectations out the water. Yeah,
I agree 100%. This was my match of the night too. It was interesting too because there was an arc that I felt through this match. I'll be honest, I've not been the biggest fan of Ronda Rousey. Part of that is I think she suffered from some of the same marketing pushes in WWE that she did in UFC. And she has historically not been the best at criticism or losses. And so it can come off as an attitude that a lot of fans don't really like. But and I heard this about their previous match when these four faced each other just, the day of or the day before this match. And I noticed it in this too, is that Ronda was selling with Marina, Athena, and Billie. We were watching people who, we were watching professional wrestlers, and with Ronda, it felt kind of like she was like a celebrity competing in professional wrestling. But I think it was just that, rust. I think a little bit of not being as consistently in front of an audience and performing as these other three who come out and do it every week, if not multiple times in a week. Because as the match went on, it felt like Ronda was getting more comfortable in there. She was enjoying what she was doing. You could see some of that between her. There was just some great moments, especially between Athena and Ronda. That was, once we finally got to see them in the ring together, that Athena getting that fall away slam Samoan drop on the outside with Marina and Ronda was dang, that was some strength right there. That was awesome to see. It was fun to see that match, see them all go out there and really just turn it up. It was cool to get some of the reminders about Athena and Ronda's previous history working together, you know, as we heard through commentary. But this match was it was a really entertaining, really fun, really hard worked match. I wasn't surprised by the end of the match, like how the outcome came up, but it's how it should have ended, I think. And yeah, I wonder if we're going to see, like, what's the fallout from this going to be? You know, I think we might see some obviously between Athena and Billy, but you know, what's going to happen with Marina? Obviously, this was like a huge moment for her too, being involved in this match. Are we going to get to see more Ronda Rousey in Ring of Honor? Because I think that would be pretty good, and she's already not looking to do long-term things like WWE, but a place like Ring of Honor might be a good place for her to be able to come in and get some work and, you know, do some little bit fun run.
I absolutely agree. I think, again, however you feel personally about Ronda Rousey, I think this was a perfect fit. And I honestly think Ring of Honor is a good fit for her. And I agree with you. I think she got more comfortable as she, you know, was getting into the match and the match went on. And I try not to make too much of a conjecture, but I think with not being so restricted in terms of what you can and cannot do, you know, wrestling in Ring of Honor versus wrestling in WWE, because listen, I love Shayna Baszler and I love Ronda Rousey, but they were so restricted to what they could do in their MMA match at SummerSlam, and it was just not the match that I wanted. It was nice to see Ronda not to be able to be super restricted. Now, obviously, she knows better. She's been wrestling for a little bit, so she knows a little bit more than if she was completely new to this. But I honestly think Billy and Athena are really great partners to work with, too, because, again, Athena does anything and everything, and the prodigy, as we call her, Billy, being a prodigy, being this good at wrestling, she knows how to work with anybody at this point at such a young age too. And you know, that ending shot, this is where I make my third bold claim this episode. I honestly think, you know what? I wouldn't be mad if it was Athena versus Ronda at Final Battle for that title. Listen, I don't care what nobody says. That is a marquee match that will get people who are not familiar with wrestling see Ronda Rousey's name attached to this match for Ring of Honor, which then, because especially since Final Battle is only exclusively on Honor Club and not Fight TV, not Bleacher Report, people are going to want to pay for the subscription, maybe for just that one match in particular. But honestly, I am not upset if that is the match we get for that women's title at Final Battle. It would be something really great for both Ronda and for Athena. I'm hoping, though, if it works out and if Ronda wants to stay for like a part-time contract, I honestly wouldn't be mad if she became part of the roster for Ring of Honor, especially since Maria Kanellis Bennett is the one booking the women's division. So I have faith in her that she would use Ronda right.
I had that same feeling at the end of this match that, like, with this short of time and not necessarily a main contender to face Athena for this title, this makes the perfect setup. I mean, the history that they've built in those last two matches that they've had, getting DQ'd by hitting her with the belt, and then at the end of this match holding out that belt like, here you go, you want your belt, I know you like to hit people with it when they're not looking, you know, and calling her out on that. And as you pointed out before, we at Final Battle, I don't think we're going to have a Ring of Honor men's world title match. So if we're going to have a headliner match, it should be Athena's world title. And having Athena versus Ronda Rousey is a big way to marquee that big pay-per-view, especially when I don't think we're going to necessarily have a Ring of Honor tag team title match either, potentially, if they're, you know, trying to save MJF for a world title matchup. So I think it would make complete sense, and after watching this match, I'm down for it. I want to see what they do because I feel like those two are going to wreck each other.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, I think because of how stiff we know Athena can work, I think Ronda Rousey is the perfect person to wrestle against because her MMA background has trained Ronda to work a little bit more stiffer and be used to taking like hard hitting shots. And I hope that's the match we get. It would be kind of a waste for Ronda to hold that title up and then we don't get anything from it. And that was the only time we see Ronda. I'm like, listen, Tony Khan, we know that you're all about making great moments. So please since, we don't have Eddie defending that title at Final Battle because it's tied up in the Continental Classic for AEW, give us Ronda versus Athena. I would be here for it. But Marina and Ronda pick up the victory here. Athena tries to hit both of them with the title, but it doesn't work out. Ronda holds the title and then throws it at Athena for her to get.
And she's gonna blame Billy for that one. No matter what, she's gonna shift that blame. So, yeah, next week I think that's not gonna be a fun night for Billy.
No, and like I said, we are making our way towards Final Battle, but it seems it may be Athena versus Ronda, which means I could actually see Athena versus Billy at Supercard next year, around the springtime, which is great because it'll give us more weeks for the dissension to continue. Alrighty, Andrew, this is a fun one, but we do need to get to our ratings for this week. We will use the out of 10 scale. So out of 10, let me see. I'll go first. Honestly, I will give this like a solid 7.8 out of 10 for me. Actually, no, I'm gonna bump that up. I'm gonna do it an 8 out of 10. This was a really fun card. It was just great. Normally, I don't like seeing all these multi-person, like 4-corner matches. We got 3 of them, but I didn't really complain about it because all 3 of them actually were very entertaining, especially the tag team one. And then when you had the likes of... Our main event was also really, really great too. I got to see a pure championship match finally after weeks, which is what I've been asking for because I want to see Shibata back on my television screen. And it's nice to see a non-title feud continue on. Tony Nese and Ethan Page's little feud, more fuel got added to the fire. So it seems that we are now slowly building towards Final Battle, minus the complaints of certain champions not being around right now. I'm actually pretty excited to see what ends up being on the final card, and the road to Final Battle started here technically. So I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10. I thought this was a fun, Thanksgiving show.
Yeah, I agree. I give this an 8 out of 10. All of my complaints so far about Ring of Nothing, but not as much to do with the weekly shows and and especially the performers that are on it. This whole show, we started with a title match. We ended with, the world title champion and a potential contender. Big names, super exciting match, and everywhere in between was a lot of fun. I think this was one of the most enjoyable nights of Ring of Honor, and even though we had these big matches in there, they flew by, but it didn't feel like they were short. There was just so much action happening that it was like you just never sat down. So yeah, this was a B for me. This was a top tier show. I really enjoyed it, and it's got me looking forward to the next few weeks.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. And, I'm actually really excited to see what we get for the next couple of weeks, especially when we get to be joined by the rest of our crew as well. Because Jesse and JBL, you guys missed a really fun show. So hopefully, I'm super excited to come back next week to review another episode of Ring of Honor with you and the rest of the boys. But if you enjoyed this review, make sure to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel, share it with a bunch of people that you know, share it with your mom, share it with your friends, share it with your dog if you need to. Listen, we're not going to complain. If you want to get notifications on when these videos go live, make sure to follow us all over the social medias at BC WrestlePod to see that. Out of context clips, memes are also a thing that we're trying to do, so it's a great time on the social medias. And then if you like to hear us further and give our more poignant takes that are not YouTube friendly, make sure out at the Bi-Conic Wrestling Podcast, where all podcasts can be found, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts. We're pretty much anywhere and everywhere. And stay tuned because literally in 2 weeks, we are about to record our end of the year special. We're going to try to get that in before all these pay-per-views in December happen. So we're going to be busy, but we're going to give our takes on the best, the worst, and the absolutely what in the world just happened this year of 2023 professional wrestling. I'm so excited. I cannot wait. But that is it from myself, Andrew, and all of us here at the Bi-Conic Wrestling YouTube channel. Remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, stay Bi-Conic, you beautiful bastards.